Out front now, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author Carl Bernstein, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel, former FBI assistant director and former Republican state senator in Nevada, Greg Brower, and former associate independent counsel in the Whitewater investigation, Kim Whaley, also the author of the new book, How to Read the Constitution and Why. So, Kim, let me start with you. The guy who hires his attorney says, I don't know if he's still my attorney. Wow.
Well, I think we have to put attorney in quotes. We saw this with his last personal attorney, Michael Cohen. And it's important to understand, we hear a lot about privileges, but the attorney-client privilege itself, that is, that would protect communications between the president and Giuliani, only applies if they're actually getting or receiving legal advice. So just because Mr. Giuliani is an attorney certainly doesn't mean all of that is protected from disclosure, but it certainly looks like Mr. Trump is distancing himself from Giuliani, who's clearly in some potential criminal legal liability in this moment.
Well, I hope he's not looking at Michael Cohen as the model of how things can turn out. And I don't even say it to laugh, but I mean, Carl, this is what has happened to the last person who was the personal attorney of the president. Look, Trump took Rudy out by the knees today by saying, I don't know. I mean, that was not what you would say about somebody you were defending. And Giuliani had no idea. So this happens. The Washington Post Josh Dawsey tweets, yes, Giuliani just texted me when I asked if he was still representing Trump. And then I am still his attorney, Giuliani says, when asked again.
You said something about knees. Well, the fact is that the president and Giuliani are joined at the hip, and they're going to remain joined at the hip for wherever what we're witnessing goes. And that's a great liability for Donald Trump, because he is not only Giuliani in the midst of this apparent conspiracy with these two gentlemen who were arrested today, but also what happened in Ukraine is a conspiracy. That is the allegation. And if there is a high crime, and if there is, as appears, a grave abuse of power, it has to do with a conspiracy in which the President of the United States and Rudy Giuliani have conspired. They are joined, and they are going to be joined. The other thing is that now Republicans are starting to look at Giuliani not as an asset in terms of even ginning up the base, but as a real liability in this conjoinment that can sink the president if things keep going south.
And Jamie, the difference, there are many, but on a very simplistic level, Michael Cohen and Trump, we've never seen the exchanges.
Right.
Okay? But we have the transcript here where the president says the president of Ukraine talked to Rudy Giuliani.
Look, the Republican sources that I'm talking to on the Hill, to Carl's point, are very concerned about Rudy Giuliani. That's where they think the next shoe to drop is. And I think what you're seeing from Trump is classic Donald Trump. As Kim said, he's distancing himself. But it's always interesting to watch Trump do this. For the man who demands so much loyalty, as soon as he gets nervous that you're not in his best interest, you're gone.
I mean, and Greg, does Trump's distancing himself from Giuliani mean he thinks he could be in trouble himself, to Carl's point about they are joined at the hip?
I think that's right, Erin, and I would suggest that Giuliani has been a liability to the president for quite some time. It's been building recently, and now it appears that Rudy Giuliani is the subject of a criminal investigation, if not the target. And so he has some serious legal jeopardy, and the president certainly senses that. But it's going to be awfully difficult for the president, even if he pretends not to know him in the coming days, which I predict will happen. It's going to be awfully difficult, to Carl's point, for the president to actually distance himself in a real way from Giuliani. It's too late for that.
I mean, Carl, Rudy Giuliani has changed the entire narrative of his career for Donald Trump, okay? He was America's mayor. He is now Trump's man. That is what he is. That is what people are going to remember him by. On the eve of the election, when the tape came out about grab him by the pee, right? No one would defend Trump. Chris Christie, you know, that's dead to Trump, wouldn't go out on Sunday shows. Rudy Giuliani jumped in. Hey, I'll go. Took his spot. And he said stuff like this.
First of all, I don't know that he did to anyone. This is talk. And gosh almighty, you know, he who hasn't sinned throw the first stone here. The fact is that men at times talk like that. Not all men, but men do.
What would you like me to say?
Okay, so here's my question from this. If Trump is selling out Rudy, which he's doing publicly now, who is it that won't jump off Trump's ship? I mean, why is it that anybody would give a person loyalty when the person who did that for Trump is still indispensable?
Trump has a lot of people around him who agree with what Trump does and what he says, and there are a lot of those people who are going to stay through no matter where
And
this
they
goes.
just think it would never
And
happen to
they're-
me?
I think there are some it won't happen to, in fact. But I think we got to step back here for a second and look at this conjoined apparat, which is Giuliani and the president, and the absolute unraveling and out of control nature of both conjoined parties here. How this is looking in retrospect in terms of, again, Republicans taking a look and watching your video and looking at old video of Rudy Giuliani flapping, and also Donald Trump and what he has said. We are talking about a matter of decorum between the two of them that is so extraordinarily out of anything we have seen before. And now it might have helped with the base before. Now that decorum itself is playing against both of them and makes the legal problems look bigger.
So, Kim, a federal judge in Texas, you've got this issue with obviously Yovanovitch and now Trump and this Rudy Giuliani situation. A federal judge in Texas also rules Trump national emergency declaration on the wall is unlawful, one of several major court hits the president took today. And so when he was asked about it, the president said he was not aware of it. Here's what he said.
We lost on immigration. I haven't heard that. We'll win. You know how many cases I've lost and then we win?
Kim, do you buy it? He hadn't heard that?
Well, I don't, but he's also not a student of the Constitution. He also recently said that members of Congress can be impeached. Listen, this is about, federal courts understand that in this moment, it's about having checks and balances on the office of the presidency. Not even this particular man. They're running roughshod over all of them. The lawyers in the White House are making legally indefensible arguments that are really stunning from my point of view, having been in the Justice Department. And the courts, I disagree with him. The courts are going to make it clear that there are limits on the president's power. He's wrong on that. And I think every American should brush up on why we have this kind of three-branch system of government. The framers did not want a monarchy. And Donald Trump does not understand that. And I think he's going to be surprised, even at the Supreme Court level, with the judges, the conservative judges, who will also disagree with him.
Well, it'd be interesting whether they go the conservative Bill Barr route, who, obviously seems to see it as part of his responsibility here to increase the power of the executive branch. Jamie, another court case, one of 5 today, blocking his taxes.
Right.
Okay, now he says this obviously could go to the Supreme Court, but this is huge. It's been a 7-month battle with Congress and a big loss tonight.
Donald Trump likes wins. We know that. This was a loss. It's a big loss. And he may decide, they're reviewing it, about going to the Supreme Court, and they may do that because there is a tactic here to delay as long as possible, get closer and closer to the election. But that court made very clear once again, it is not going to interfere with the House. The House has the right to send out these subpoenas. So he may delay, but from everything we've seen, he's going to lose that one.
He has not won on
Correct.
that one yet. All right, all of you stay with me.